Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
Good morning. I don't know what I was expecting extra. That's supposed to be my cue. Good morning and welcome. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
And from Lagos, good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Maybe Maupe was expecting drum rolls. Well, it's the day after IWD. Hey, welcome to the show here in Lagos. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
Well, I think we'll have INEC, well, because they put up a release yesterday after that court decision. So we'll just go ahead and get straight to it. So yesterday, the commission came up with this release signed by Festus Okoye, which says following that's yesterday's ruling by the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, they abbreviated it as EPT, on the reconfiguration of the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAs, used for the presidential election held on 25th February 2023, the Commission met to assess its impact on the Commission's preparations for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections scheduled for Saturday, 11th March 2023. I'll paraphrase quite a number of them because it's a bit long. But it goes on to say, Nigerians will recall that on 3rd March 2023, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal had given an ex parte order for some political parties to inspect materials used for the presidential election, including the forensic inspection of over 176,000 BVAs used in the election, which are located in INEC local government area offices across the country. The Commission approached the tribunal to reconsider the order given that the VAS system were to be deployed for the governorship and state assembly elections, and that the lack of a clearly defined time frame for the inspection could disrupt the Commission's ability to conduct the outstanding elections. For instance, the VAS can only be activated on the specific date and time of an election. Having been used for the presidential and National Assembly elections on 25th February 2023, it is necessary to reconfigure the BVAS for activation on the date of the governorship and state assembly elections. While the ruling of the tribunal makes it possible for the Commission to commence the preparations of the VAS for the governorship and state assembly elections, it has come far too late for the reconfiguration to be concluded. Consequently, the Commission has taken the difficult but necessary decision to reschedule the governorship and state assembly elections, which will now take place on Saturday, 18th March 2023. By this decision, campaigns will continue until midnight of Thursday, 16th March 2023, that is 24 hours before the new date for the election. This decision has not been taken lightly, but it is necessary to ensure that there is adequate time to back up the data stored on the over 176,000 BVAS machines from the presidential and National Assembly elections held on 25th February 2023, and then to reconfigure them for the governorship and state assembly elections. This has been the practice for all elections, including the period when the Commission was using smart card readers. However, we wish to reiterate that the Commission is not against litigants inspecting election materials. Consequently, it will continue to grant all litigants access to the materials they require to pursue their cases in court. We wish to reassure all political parties and candidates that the data from the presidential and National Assembly elections will be backed up and available in INEC cloud facilities, including the INEC Results Viewing Portal, IREV. Note that political parties can apply for certified true copies of the back-end data of the BVAS. Also, the results on the BVAS will continue to be available on the IREV for interested parties to access. We thank Nigerians and friends of Nigeria for their understanding as we continue to deal with these difficult issues and navigate these challenging times. Barrister Festus Okoye, National Commissioner and Chairman, INEC, that's the Information and Voter Education Committee. This was signed on Wednesday, 8th March 2023. So this is the release from the Commission. Yesterday, there were, of course, that's when the court decision happened. So we'll just go and let you listen to, I think, some one or two of some comments that was made by some of the lawyers or one of the lawyers yesterday. Okay, I understand we can't get that across to you now, but hopefully, who knows. Well, here in the studios, Afam Osigwe, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, joins us now to shed light on this and the court decision yesterday. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Morning,
Good morning.
Well, clearly this follows that decision from yesterday that the court granted both INEC and the parties to inspect materials and INEC configure, but make sure it's on the back end so everybody can access, as INEC has included in their as the reasons for this shedding of the election. So, considering all that is playing out, what do you think of this?
Well, you all know that the INEC went to court in the first place to say, look, the order of court prevents us from tampering with the BVAs used for the election, but we need to reconfigure it. And then the Labour Party, I understand, opposed the application on the ground that the data for that the BVAs is the primary register of voters, which will show how many voters we accredited, how many people voted at that election. And so that allowing INEC to reconfigure it will mean that the data will be lost. But INEC countered by saying, no, the data will not be lost, it will be backed up. And all the information will be accessible just like Chamberlain read. So, and they indicated to the court too that failure to allow INEC to reconfigure the BVAs will mean that the INEC will be unable to conduct the remaining gubernatorial and House of Assembly elections. And the court agreed with them that with the assurance they've given, the Labour Party not filing any affidavit to counter the fact that they need to do it, that data will not be tampered with or lost, that there was no basis for not granting it. And the court did not want to tie INEC's hands, so the court granted it. And maybe because, not maybe because the order came late in the day yesterday, and they had to reconfigure 176,000 BVAs to be used for the election. This occasioned the postponement in the election scheduled to take place on Saturday. So the whole essence of this is about evidence required for use in the election petition tribunal. While those who are petitioners have doubts about the integrity of INEC in not tampering with this, INEC, on its honor, gave assurance that it could be trusted that this cannot be tampered with, and that they will have full access to all the back-end data relating to this. And I'm sure if anybody tampered with such things, forensically this can also be discovered. So the whole essence of it is to ensure that the remaining elections take place, and also to ensure that the evidence that may be required by those who go to court are not tampered with, and they are stored in such a manner that they will be able to retrieve them without disrupting the electoral process. I
know that technical people raise different issues, but this clearly is also within the legal time frame within which the elections can be conducted.
Absolutely.
So there's no cause for any concerns in this particular area.
Not to my mind.
Well, I do know that, yesterday's judgment was going to hold, we were already told by analysts that it was going to have, consequences whichever way. INEC has raised a few issues here and in a statement, but what also comes to mind is how we put this in mind when we thought about the introduction of technology into our elections. There are questions as to whether or not this was thought about. In the Osun elections, or even in almost all the elections that have been conducted with the BVAs, I think only the Osun elections have gone to court. And we've seen that in the conduct of that election petition tribunal, evidence was required from the BVAs, and the BVAs was, in fact, I think we understand, demanded by the tribunal to be brought there. So there are questions as to whether we have thought about the implications of the introduction of technology. Do you have any idea of how it worked with the smart card reader, and whether there was anything we could have learned from that?
Now, with the smart card reader, one can't really say, because of the Supreme Court judgment in the, I think, Lagos and Rivers State matter, where the court held that the data from the smart card reader could not be relied on for determining the number of accredited voters, because it was not part of the law then, and it was a mere regulation by INEC. And under the 2022 Electoral Act, INEC was empowered to determine how to conduct the election, unlike in 2010 Act, where electronic mode of voting accreditation was outright forbidden by the Act. So the introduction of technology always comes with the downside, always comes with the suspicion. Even in the US, people like Trump are still casting doubt about the integrity of the electoral process that produced Joe Biden as president. So there will always be people who suspect that somebody somewhere may impute data or corrupt data or hack into the system to give a different reading. And it is not out of place for those who are challenging an election which they believe was conducted without substantial compliance with the law, without substantial compliance with the guidelines made by the electoral body, not to trust that same body, not to tamper with the data, because they intend to impeach the declared results. So you would expect them not to say, look, he said, well, say, we don't trust you. We don't trust you not to tamper with evidence. So it's a way of, all in all, is to find a middle ground which satisfies everybody, which allows INEC to carry out its job, and which also preserves the evidence in the form it is, so that they will be used in such a manner that nobody will have doubts about it. You mentioned the Osun election, gubernatorial election.
Yes.
The problem with that election, to my understanding, was that INEC certified different results of the product of the BVAs, thereby casting doubt as to
the report.
The report.
That was produced.
What do we believe? At what point does the BVAs preserve the correct record? Is it automatic? Does it take forever? Can it keep reproducing different outcome?
Even though there were arguments saying that they presented that the ones that they gave to different political parties were the ones that were coming in at the time. So both of them were different, and it wasn't the final output. And they expected the court to have take a look at the BVAs machine itself. That's just...
So Chamberlain, if you ask me, that's where the problem is. If you can generate different results from the same thing at different times, different people.
No, not when it's concluded.
Now, my understanding of BVAs is that it works online and offline. So when you're connected to network, it's automatic. So how long did it take for those other ones to connect to the network? Okay. To keep giving different... I'm not a technical person. Yeah, but so. You understand why people from the Osun election, and because of that, the Tribunal found that there was overvoting and now cancelled results from certain areas and upturned the result declared by INEC. So there's already an integrity issue concerning the output from BVAs. And so when people have doubts as to whether the backing of it in the course of the reconfiguration would affect the output, it's not, after all, baseless.
I think it's just important to also state that in that particular election, I think INEC is part of the appeal now. It's part of the appeal process. They said that there was an interim report and then there was a final report. And it was the final report that they were hoping the tribunal will rely on. But what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't look like we've given sufficient room. We know that traditionally, for presidential and governorship elections, we will hold the presidential first. I mean, whichever one we decide. I know there's still controversy as to which one to hold first. But our recent experience has shown that we will hold the presidential elections first, and 2 weeks after, we will conduct the governorship elections. I'm just asking that with the introduction of technology, especially now that it is recognized by the Electoral Act, where it says that INEC will, a voter will be accredited using a smart card reader or any other electronic device, which INEC decides. I'm just wondering whether we have given sufficient room in that 2 weeks for, to take cognizance of whatever litigation could arise as a result of the use of technology.
Well, this is a first-time experience, and I'm sure as we move forward, INEC will devise ways to accommodate such developments, and the court have also shown their willingness to take these applications and rule on them as quickly as possible so as not to disrupt the entire process. So it's a learning process.
Now, let me ask you quickly.
Yeah, if I could just follow up on that one.
Okay,
look at this. He says that it has come far too late for the reconfiguration to be concluded. So some could interpret this as though the court could have done it a little faster.
Well, I have my doubts. INEC declared the winner of the election around 2 a.m. on Monday nights. That's in the dawn of Tuesday. And people went to court immediately to request to be given access to this. I think they got the order on Thursday. And INEC came back immediately, the day after they got the order, if I'm not mistaken, to ask that the order be varied to allow them to reconfigure. And the other people had to be put on notice, and they had to file things. And the court ruled on Wednesday. So if you look at the circumstances, it would not appear to have come too late. But maybe too, the court could have sat over the weekend and taken all arguments in this, maybe rule. Maybe that's also what we may need to consider, that the weekends should not be wasted in this kind of situation, so that decisions will be rendered in good time to allow INEC to make requisite preparations for the election. And also INEC, immediately upon being served an order, should be up and doing to request that certain things be done so as not to tie its hands.
Because we don't know how long it takes to configure the BVAs.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's part of what we're saying. Look, we could have possibly get across so INEC and ask this question, see if they make themselves available. And then others also wonder, could it also be that maybe the commission thinks, look, weekend is best time for this kind of elections, and so we cannot do it weekday. So even if we finish configuration on, say, a Tuesday or Wednesday, we may not be able to do elections on a Thursday, so we push it to Saturday. Who knows? Just maybe.
I'm just a little curious as to, for a moment, the question skipped my head, but I'm just a little curious as to whether our courts, because right now it does appear, even though, from the many applications that were made, it does appear that the court, has tried its best to be fair to all. INEC asked for a variation. They didn't quite grant that variation. I don't know what the details of the variation or what that might mean in terms of asking for a variation, but they allowed INEC reconfigure the BVAs.
Which was essentially what INEC wanted.
Yes, which is
to permit it
to reconfigure the BVAs. And I'm just wondering as well, because they had to go with INEC's word that the data indeed has been backed up. And that the litigants will have access to the data in its back-end server. But I am just wondering, do you think that our courts, with the more we introduce technology into our electoral matters, do you think that our courts are, well, I say, enabled to understand just how technology will now begin to affect things that have to do with law? Would they need expert opinion, for instance, etc.?
Naturally. All parties to this suit will be bringing a lot of expert witnesses, forensic experts especially, and the court will be able to find its way through them, because that's why they are learned people. That's why they are knowledgeable in all aspects of life and the law. And so while it may be a novel issue that is going to play out in the course of these election petitions, the courts, the judges that will man this tribunal will also on their own be reading up, apprising themselves of the development in that area of law, and also listening intently to the evidence of different expert witnesses that may be called, and then deciding who to believe and who not to believe. They are not superhuman, by the way, but then again, they are intelligent enough to know which evidence is credible and which they would believe, despite them not being technical persons.
Let's quickly take this conversation now to our colleagues in Lagos.
Well, thanks, Mark. Let me just bring in this angle to it. It's very interesting what is unfolding before our very eyes. But I'd like to know, in the process of justice or getting justice, which is weightier? Is it justice for one or a party or the greater good? And I'll give you an example using this scenario now. So we have the Labour Party or the PDP saying, well, INEC should not be allowed to tamper with the BVAs. And INEC is thinking, well, there is a big election coming up, the state and the state assembly, like the governorship and state assembly elections coming up. And I know a lot of people were divided. Do we allow, to allow justice in court or the process of justice, allow those parties be able to inspect the BVAs for as long as it will take? Mind you, that would mean that the governorship and state assembly elections will be postponed indefinitely, perhaps up until they're done with the inspection. And others were saying, well, we need to go ahead with this election. So really, in the process of justice, which is weightier, what are the considerations being made? Because some might say that, well, this is not exactly justice in court, or this harms the process of justice, while others think, well, the common good is bigger here.
Justice sometimes is about finding what works, what is fair and just in the circumstance. It may not sometimes be for one person, it may not always be for the greater good, but it depends on facts and circumstance of the case. And because when you talk about greater good, sometimes it may be when you pander to what you consider an ideal So an ideal may not always be the case because the facts may not support the ideal, so the ideal will not be opposite. Now, in this case, the Constitution has limited a time within which INEC must conduct election. And INEC cannot conduct election out of that time. So it's not a situation where you can say, until they finish the inspection, hold on with the election. And then that's one. But in this case, the Tribunal, Election Petition Tribunal, believed the evidence of INEC that it will not tamper with the data stored on the BVAs. The court believed INEC that this data will be backed up in their server and will not be tampered with. But that's the decision of the court. Not everybody will like it. Most decisions of court will leave some people happy, some people unhappy. And this may be the kind of situation, maybe that kind of situation. But the point is, the court works based on facts. It makes decisions based on facts available to it. And I read in the media, though, one of the justices, in the ruling, the court saying that Labour Party did not counter a particular thing said by INEC about the mode of storing it or some other thing about that, and the effect it would have on the gubernatorial and House of Assembly elections. And so that's what the court believed. And it would not be good, too, to have an unending inspection that will disrupt the electoral process. So the court, having taken the assurance by INEC that nothing will be tampered with, seemed to have believed that even though the primary entry point, or where this data is imputed, is in the BVAs, the BVAs is so is such that it uploads this data to a server. Right. So which means that it's just like a document typed in your computer, which can also be backed up in a server. Right. So even when that document is deleted from your system, it is available in some other place in the same form in which it was produced. Right. I'm not much of a technical person concerning this.
Mr. Sigwe, let me rescue you here.
But that's what the court has ruled at the moment, and that is the position of the law.
Right, let me rescue you. A lot of us have had to become emergency techies overnight just to understand this. But quickly now, some will also say that perhaps INEC brought this upon itself, because I think it rises and falls on that question of trust. How much do these parties trust INEC? And that's sad, because, I mean, INEC, if anybody should have the highest trust coefficient in Nigeria, should be INEC. So INEC has perhaps a week and more to rebuild that trust. What do you think INEC should begin to do as a matter of urgency now to rebuild the trust? Because we still expect to have INEC after this election for the conduct of future elections.
You know, INEC must always act in a manner that shows its independence and neutrality. Neutrality especially. INEC must act in a manner that when INEC says, we will do this, people should be away believing that INEC can take INEC's word to the bank. So when INEC says, this is a guideline we have issued, we are going to conduct an election in strict compliance with this, and then INEC fails to do that, the trust issue will always be there. But when INEC says, these are guidelines, we will follow it religiously, results will be done, this is how we are going to conduct the election materials will be there by 8 a.m., and then election materials are there, the officials are there. But when INEC says we are going to be there, and no electoral official shows up, and the electoral officials who show up are able to identify the polling units, and the reverse works, and the results are transmitted in the manner provided in the guidelines, and INEC is seen not to have a dog in the fight, and INEC, whatever result declared by INEC reflects the results as declared at the polling units, then people will trust it. But if it is otherwise, and if there are grounds to doubt that INEC is acting in accordance with the will of the people, or like in good faith with guidelines, then these trust issues will always be there.
Mr. Osigwe, for me, I'm wondering if INEC is learning a little too slowly lessons from the conduct of elections using, you know, electronic devices such as the BVAs, because following the announcement of, you know, the postponement of the governorship elections due to that Presidential Election Tribunal ruling, some officials who speak on condition of anonymity are saying that the commission will need to move the BVAS machines to the headquarters for reconfiguring. So as INEC learned a little too slowly, I say this again because, you know, in past elections, presidential candidates had gone to court. So there was that very real possibility that election losers will go to court.
I didn't quite get your question, please.
In this whole process, you said earlier when Malcolm was asking you about, the implications of using the digital device to conduct elections, that what are the lessons that have been learned? So, and you say that it's a learning curve. So for me, as INEC learned a little too slowly, shouldn't it have anticipated that election losers will go to court because of the implications of using, the digital device to conduct elections?
I think people are not going to court because they are using an electronic device. People are going to court because they question INEC's good faith to its guidelines. They have doubts about whether the results declared reflect what they believe was the outcome of the voting in the polling units. So it's not about the electronic device. It could also happen if it was just paper-based election. It's all about trust. It's all about people going away feeling that they lost fair and square. But when people go away feeling that,
it's not
I
about,
actually won, or somebody stole the match on me.
Sorry to come in there. It's not about people going. It's not about people going to court here. It's about INEC's preparation. Did it anticipate enough that people would go to court, and shouldn't it have prepared, perhaps additional BVAS machines for, this possibility for where we find ourselves now?
Well, your question suggests that shouldn't INEC have prepared for another set of 176,000 BVAS machines? And that would have been killing for our economy. I mean, know that the budget we've been operating a budget deficit, we're borrowing to fund our budget, and so much money has gone to funding INEC for the preparation of this election. And I do not think the outcome has reflected the huge funds spent on it. But to suggest that they should have two sets also may mean having a lot of BVAS that may fall into the wrong hands. But I think using the same for the election is not bad, but INEC seemed to be ill-prepared or somehow scuttled its own internal processes. I may never be able to know the right answer, but INEC has not showed that it was prepared for all likely things that may come out of this election, and the manner they conducted the election did not leave people satisfied. Let people scratching their heads that indeed INEC performed below par.
Point taking about the costs, but what lessons have we now learned, about this process for future presidential elections, given the fact that we are a people prone to litigation, particularly after having lost elections?
We are people prone to litigation after losing an election, not because not because people are sore losers, but people go away believing that the process was not fair and transparent. People go away believing that if they are in compliance with the provisions of the law and the procedure for election, probably they will not have lost. When you have voter intimidation, violence, results mutilated, results uploaded being different from what is declared in some cases, or people being forced under duress to declare a person who may not have won an election as the winner, then people will go to court. But if people see that the law were won and all results have passed the integrity test, I don't think many people will go to court. There will be less time spent on court. Look at party primaries. More people went to court last year because most of the party primaries were a huge joke. And that put a lot of pressure on the Federal High Court, which now moved on to the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. Until our processes are right, until politicians learn to respect the rule of law, act in accordance with provisions of their own constitutions and guidelines for the conduct of primaries, people will always go to court. And also until INEC and the participants in the electoral process allow the will of the people to prevail. Do not destroy ballot boxes. Do not use violence to prevent people from voting. Do not maim and kill people. Do not force people or induce electoral officials to do the wrong thing. Do not mutilate the results. People will go to court.
Okay, just one more quick one before we go. Is there any definition, or what can it be, or what's your thoughts about the question of substantial compliance? In this case now, 176,000 BVAS. So what can possibly be this scenario?
It's a matter of fact for the court to decide. No lawyer, no person can sit down and tell you that his own definition of what is substantial compliance is the right one. But I would like to believe that the court will always, like we say, look at would the ordinary man in Shigwe believing that the right thing has been done. Has INEC done? So it has to be a catalog of violations of the law, failure to comply with guidelines, comply with the provisions of the law, and then the pattern of how the whole thing played out. And then the court will make a decision one way or the other. But I will be unable to give you a definition that satisfies you or any person.
Yeah, because whatever you give, several people
it's arguable.
No, I don't agree,
I don't agree
this
with
one.
you. Yeah.
Well, we'll just thank you for coming on. Alpha Mosigwe is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
All right, we will be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Yes, indeed. Well, taking a look at the governorship candidates. Let's take a look at their manifestos, what plans they've got for the people. Well, we'll start off with Obasani, who is the governorship candidate of the APC. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Okay, so let's be sure that we're actually seeing him. Okay, so well, that is actually the PDP candidate, which we'll come to in a moment. But Mr. Basani, can you still hear me?
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. So, but let's start off with you. First and foremost, what is your impression about the news that we just that came through from INEC about this election? Does it affect your plans in any way?
Of course, we were ready and for the election on the 11th of March, but when INEC came with a press statement yesterday that the election had been postponed until 18 March, we carefully looked at their own reasons, and looking at the reasons by the National Commissioner, Mr. Pesos Okoye, I have no doubt in my mind that the reasons are really very important and very critical. And if we want to have a free, fair election in our own country, we need to believe in INEC position, and because we advocated for the use of technology in our own election. As a member of the National Assembly, I was involved in the amendment of the Electoral Act. So that is the reason why I actually supported their position, but really it affected our plans because we were ready for the election of the 11th of March. But on the 18th of March, we will be prepared also. And looking at the reason given by INEC, I have no doubt in my mind, most of us that believe in free, fair, and credible election will certainly realize that the reasons are very important. We realize that because of the court case going on in the last few days, and the judgment was only given yesterday in favor of INEC, that is the reason why I personally and my own supporters believe the reasons given by INEC are really very serious reasons, and we will be ready and patient for the election to hold on the 18th of March.
You know, some people always say that, well, politicians are the ones in court, so they might have more information before it gets out there. Did you see this coming at all?
No, I didn't see this coming. Only that I was very worried when I realized that both the PDP and Labour candidates went to court challenging the INEC decision to use the BVAs for our election. They insisted that they wouldn't want INEC to tamper with the BVAs, but well, realistically, there's no way INEC can conduct gubernatorial and House of Assembly election without looking at the INEC and resetting them so that at least the election would be perfect and the technology will not be at least interfered with, considering the fact that the same BVAs were used for the presidential election. So I'm happy that the court gave judgment, and we believe it will be in the best interest of everyone. And like I said, most of us have worked extremely to ensure that we have a credible election. And like I said, I was involved in the Electoral Act amendment, so I have no reason to go against it right now. And of course, one of the major reasons we advanced in our amendment of the Act is to ensure that we use technology in our election. So right now, we are prepared. Of course, it has affected our preparation, but I think it's all for good. We'll be ready. We are committed, we are determined, and my supporters and the APC in Kaduna State will be patient, and I have no doubt in my mind our people will also understand and be patient and come out on the 11th of March to vote for APC by the grace of God.
But I'm just a little curious why you think that the people will all of a sudden vote for APC, why you imagine or why you believe that you will emerge victorious, given the results that the presidential elections produced in Kaduna State. The PDP, you know, had a great showing, it would seem, in Kaduna, in spite of the fact that you currently have a governor who is a member of your party, a two-time governor, I beg your pardon, a two-time, yes, governor of your state. Why do you think that the results will turn out any different for the presidential elections?
No, I have no doubt in my mind that the governorship election will entirely be different. It's a local election where the people of Kaduna, like I said, they are very sophisticated, they are very educated. They will vote for the candidate based on our own track records. I think they will focus on our track record. It's a local election. That is the reason why I believe more people will come out. In the last election, there were very poor turnouts in the last election, but the coming election, that's a governorship election, I believe the people will come out in mass. And if you look at the previous governorship election in Kaduna State, Governor El-Rufai won the two elections, 2015 and 2019, with over 1 million votes, meaning that we have over 600,000 people that have not turned out. And of course, we will go out, like I have no doubt in my mind, to bring them out this time around to vote for APC. And knowing fully that this is a local election, like I said, Governor El-Rufai have set the record. He has done extremely well in our state. You will agree with me that in terms of infrastructural development, he has done very well. Many governors have come to Kaduna, including the President of Nigeria, President Buhari, who has given a lot of credit to Governor El-Rufai's infrastructural revolution in Kaduna State. Most of you have visited Kaduna and attended our investment summit. You will also agree with me that Governor El-Rufai have done well, even in terms of healthcare development, in terms of educational development, as well as creating jobs for our teaming youth and women. These are the things our people will look out to support APC to continue in Kaduna State.
Senator, so can you enumerate for us the factors you think produced the sort of results we saw for the APC in Kaduna, and what other factors you think will come to play in the governorship elections, since you say that the elections here are local? Indeed they are, but you know, what factors do you think were at play at the presidential that would not come to play in the governorship?
I will agree with me. You have been governorship elections, for many years. You will agree with me that elections are different. Like I said, in the last election, there were poor turnout. You will agree with me. And I gave you an example in the previous election that Governor El-Rufai defeated Issa Ashuru. Remember, he defeated the current PDP candidate 2019 with over 1 million votes. You will agree with me. The Issa Ashuru sitting there was defeated by El-Rufai twice. And of course, it's simply because the people of Kaduna State elect their governor on the basis of their own track record. So that is what they'll be looking at. They are very brilliant people. They will look at our track records and now see who has what it takes to move our state forward. That is a simple reason, and you will agree with me. Kaduna is not like any other state. So the individual's track record, we are talking about Kaduna. So the people have better knowledge about listen to me, the people have better knowledge about their governorship candidates, you know, because it's a local politics. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I was just going to say, are you saying then that the track record of the APC at the national level is not something that the people of Kaduna State would have wanted to continue at that particular level?
Because maybe you did not really, you are trying to misinterpret my own statement. If you listen to me carefully, you are saying something different from what I'm saying. I said the people of Kaduna State are more aware of the track record of their governorship candidate. That is one. When I say they are not, what I'm saying in essence is that they have better knowledge of their governorship candidate. And because Governor El-Rufai have done well, and I give an example, Governor El-Rufai defeated Issa Ashuru with about 1.7 million votes. And you will agree with me, it has happened here in Kaduna. So it will repeat itself again.
So Senator, are you saying that having seen the just concluded presidential elections, the PDP winning in 3 federal constituencies and how they perform will count for nothing whatsoever because you say, yeah, you go ahead and win the elections?
I have no doubt in my mind. Well, let me make corrections here, maybe so that you don't misinterpret me. El-Rufai got over 1 million votes in the last election. He defeated Issa Ashuru of PDP. And of course, largely because Governor El-Rufai have done very well. Again, if you look at what is happening right now in Kaduna, the fact that PDP won some senatorial election, I don't think it will affect. I have no doubt in my mind it will affect our governorship election on the 18th. Issa Ashuru have his own track record. He must contest election on the basis of his own track record. And that track record was what made him to lose his election against El-Rufai. That is what I'm saying here.
So as things stand now, security is a very important component in Kaduna. So what would your plan be to assure the people, because you know that there's been several reports about what has been done, what's going on, and what is expected of any government in Kaduna to ensure that the people are safe. What will your plans be?
Because if you have been following my own contribution intervention in the National Assembly, don't forget I'm a senator at the moment. And also, you will agree with me that I'm one of the leading senators in Nigeria canvass for the improvement of security situation in the country and Kaduna State in particular. That is the reason why I personally sponsored the bill for the creation of state police, as well as the bill for the amendment of Firearms Act. But having said that, security is a major issue, not only in Kaduna State, but in every other state in Nigeria. And if you look at what we're trying to do, we are going to upscale our engagement with the federal government to support the government security agencies, the police, the Air Force, as well as the Navy. As we are speaking right now, we have been able to convince the federal government to establish an Air Force command in Benengwari right now. And that has largely helped to address the issue of insecurity in Benengwari at the moment. And Kaduna State is one of the few states that have been able to have a serious engagement with the federal government security agencies. And you're aware, the security issue is largely a federal government issue. State governors have no power to control or instruct the security agencies in Nigeria. But having said that, Kaduna State Governor El-Rufai have had a very positive engagement with the federal government security agencies, the police, the Air Force, and the Navy. And we have been seeing the results. Again, we will invest in technology to support the security agencies in advancing their own technology by supporting them and funding them. Again, the next thing we intend to do is also to improve our intelligence gathering by trying as much as possible to work closely with the community leaders, traditional leaders, and religious leaders in terms of intelligence gathering to be able to support the security agencies in our own state. These are the few things we intend to do. We also have to retrain and support the local vigilante who have done extremely well in supporting our security agencies in our own state. These are few things we intend to do, as well as going further to see what we can do in terms of also coming up with our peace commission in Kaduna State. That's what we're trying to do. You know, we have established a peace commission that have done extremely well in Kaduna State in educating and sensitizing our people the need for peace, unity, and harmony in our own state. These are the things the governor have done so far. And because of that, the problem of insecurity in Kaduna have really been tackled to some extent, but it's something that we'll continue to do, and we will try to build on the effort made by our amiable Governor El-Rufai, when elected by the grace of God.
Okay, Senator, I just have a few questions to ask with regards to, you know, in fairness to the current governor. Yes, there's been, I mean, every year you've done this investment summit, trying to bring in investors into Kaduna, and some have come indeed to set up their businesses. But a few issues continue to becloud the politics in Kaduna State, and that is the politics of inclusion. There have been talk around the non-inclusion, it would seem, or taking into cognizance the demography or the issue of religion in Kaduna State, which continues to be a hot-button topic. For instance, the current governor has run a Muslim ticket. It does appear that you are also running that same Muslim ticket, something that has not gone down well with the Christians of your state. I'm just wondering, how do you intend to manage the issue of diversity, seeing that this is, one of the issues that continues to pop up in Kaduna State?
I think the issue of Muslim ticket, for me, the people of Kaduna State have accepted that in the last election. And for those that know me critically well, I'm someone who don't have the problem with anybody because of his religious affiliation or his faith. And we try as much as possible to be fair to everyone, irrespective of those religious inclination. So that for me, but the most important thing is that people should look at my one running mate. She's a woman, she's brilliant, she's someone we work closely together for 4 years right now. And I believe she's competent, she's someone that have done the job extremely well. So I'm not looking at her as a Muslim, but I'm looking at someone I've worked closely and she has what it takes to be the deputy governor of Kaduna State. And she's a woman. And for me, she's not even from this part of Kaduna State, she's from the southern part of Kaduna State. I don't know why people are apprehensive, because we will try as much as possible to be fair to everyone. For those who are using religion to advance their political goal, I think it's unfortunate. Kaduna have had relative peace in the last 6 years. There has never been a problem of religious crisis in Kaduna State in the last 6 years, because the governor have done extremely well in ensuring that everyone is given equal opportunity in Kaduna State. There is no any religious difference or any discrimination by the governor on a religious basis. So for me, it's something that has have not done anything negatively for anyone in Kaduna State. And that has brought a lot of investment. So I'll say, look at it critically. You just mentioned that Governor have done well. And for me, we should be talking about development. Having said the qualities and capability and capacity of the woman who is a deputy governor, she worked with R5 for 4 years, and I have worked with her closely. She is brilliant. She is someone who have done the job very well. So I am more concerned about developing Kaduna State. We are not going to discriminate against anyone. We are not going to do anything to treat anybody on the basis of religion. Everyone in Kaduna will be treated equally. Maybe some people are trying to elaborate on this issue simply because they want to use religion. Kaduna State people are more concerned about development. And when you look at me, and for those who know me critically, they will tell you that most of the people working closely with me are Christians. Even my staff, both my private business before I came to the Senate, and rather in my office, most of the people working with me are Christians. And I encourage them to do what they intend to do. Nobody
Senator Obasani, I think it's very important for me to state what I said. And I said, in fairness to the governor, he's held this business summit, which my team even often comes to cover in Kaduna State. I didn't make an endorsement statement of the governor of Kaduna. That's not to say. Anyways, let's move away from that issue. But the point is, for the people who have criticized that, what they have said is that in the non-recognition of the religious diversity of Kaduna State, what your administration intends to do is that you intend to use a divide and rule method in Kaduna State.
Of course, maybe that's why I'm emphasizing to you that people that have known me for years is not Obasani of today. Maybe you have to go back to my track record. I was among the few people in Nigeria that fought for the improvement of democracy in Nigeria. I know the meaning of rule of law, justice, freedom, and equity. So we will try as much as possible to give everybody equal opportunity in Kaduna State. And we're not going to run our government with any form of discrimination against anybody because of his own religious affiliation. We will be just, fair to everyone in Kaduna State, irrespective of their own religious background or ethnic. background. So we will try as much as possible to be just to everyone. That's what I'm saying. And looking at what Governor Erufai have done in 4 years, you will agree with me that most of the positions in Kaduna State right now that are very critical have been even headed by Christians. So there's no form of discrimination according to Kaduna State, and we'll continue with that. And I'm assuring the Christians and the Muslims in Kaduna State that our government will be fair and just to everyone. No discrimination will only be focused to improve the development already initiated by Governor Erufai as we are speaking. Well, we have attracted foreign and local investment worth 4.3 billion. It's unprecedented in the history of our state. And that has created over 75,000 jobs in our state. So that's what we're talking about. Looking at the improvement we've made in the area of healthcare in Kaduna State is unprecedented. And the infrastructural development, and when elected, like I said, areas where Governor Erufai.
Yeah, Senator, speaking about that, let me just follow up on the economy. And yes, you talked about some positives, but the DMO also indicates that the state has a debt burden of 354 billion, second most indebted state in the country. How do you plan to deal with that?
Of course, I don't know why people kept agitating about loans. People don't have any idea about economy. Even though economy, go to some developed countries around the world. Talk of Malaysia, talk of Dubai, talk of Singapore, and many countries. Look at their development. Most of them have borrowed a lot of money to be able to put the infrastructure that they're benefiting today and attract foreign investment. In Kaduna State, when we came in, we inherited debt of $288 million by Kaduna State government. The previous government we inherited. And when we came in, Kaduna State was still the second indebted state in Nigeria. So it's not something different. But when you look at Kaduna State critically, we visited Kaduna State in the last 6 years, we've been covering our investment summit, but you will see where the money is invested. We borrow the money, but see the infrastructural development in Kaduna State. Even the president of Nigeria admitted to the fact that he lived all his life in Kaduna. But when he came last time, he said he missed the road to his own house. And he was sincere. Just the same thing was said by many governors that came to Kaduna. So we borrowed the money, agreed, but we invested the money in developing our infrastructure. That is why, because I was involved in the urban renewal program of Governor Erufai. Having said that, when I called him in, that couldn't be the problem. When we came in, our IGR of Kaduna State was about 13 billion yearly. Today, we have an IGR of about 52 billion yearly. So we compare our own because we improve our IGR from 13 billion annually to 52 billion as we are speaking. For me, it's commendable because in the past, people are paying the tax, but some people are stealing the money. Right now, we have come with a system where nobody can steal the money, and we are using the money for good. That is why I have no doubt my man will pay the money, and it will not affect the development of Kaduna State. Having said that again, we have that infrastructural investment in Kaduna State have attracted investment of over 4.3 billion. Look at Olam investment. Look at natural resource that just came and invested on steel in Kaduna State. Look at also just tomato. Look when you come to Kaduna, I will show you. You visited most of these factories in Kaduna. Were they existing before Governor Erufai came? They were not existing. That's why, for me, I'm happy because if elected, I will focus on rural areas. We have other areas in Kaduna State that need development, and that will be my focus because a governor must choose the area of his own priority. Governor Erufai choose urban renewal. I will focus on rural areas where we will go there and put more investment, put more roads, more hospitals, more schools. Governor Erufai have done that already, but we'll put more effort in our rural local governments, having done the urban renewal by Governor Erufai, which was neglected completely by previous government.
Well, I'm sure that these rural areas haven't listened to you now will be looking forward to ensuring that these things are done. But we have to thank you for coming on, Senator Uba Sani, the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress. All the best to you.
Before I go, I want to say a word, but I will not. I was shocked when I just point out when I had the PDP gubernatorial candidate last week saying that let me correct him again, so that maybe he will have the benefit of correcting himself. Saying that he will negotiate with bandits and terrorists in Nigeria. Maybe be a former member of National Assembly. He must have forgotten most of these things. We have already declared these bandits as terrorists by competent court of law in Nigeria. So why are you negotiating with terrorists? Okay, we don't have that. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So he will now respond to what you just raised when he comes on. Thank you and all the best again. Back to Lagos.
Yes, thank you, Chamberlain. Mr. Isa Ashiru, the PDP governorship candidate, joins us now for more on the coming governorship elections across the country, but with particular focus on Kaduna. Mr. Ashiru, thank you for joining us on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, my sister.
Perhaps we should start with you responding to Mr. Ubasani's challenge on your approach of negotiating with bandits should you win the election.
Well, he is entitled to his own opinion. What I said was that there are options that are yet to be, to be discussed. There are options that are available that have not been, tapped. And I told the press when I spoke with them that there are options that are yet to be tapped and can be tapped to make sure that we bring this menace to an end. And by so doing, I don't think I'm doing anything to the contrary. The truth of the matter is that we must bring to an end this menace. It has been on the increase on a daily basis. For your information, the statistics we got from the Ministry of Internal Security, from 2015, they got into office to today, about 53,418 people were killed. And it is on the increase. I don't see any reason why other options cannot be exploited to make sure that we bring this matter to an end. He's entitled to his own opinion. I have heard him. I have been the subject of attack. I don't blame him. He's confused. He is not, himself because of the pressure they are getting from our end. Well, this is politics. I wish him well.
Well, Mr. Ashiru, his concern is about the propriety of your decision to negotiate with them since the bandits have been designated as terrorists.
Well, the truth of the matter is that the issue of this insecurity has been on the increase on daily basis. So long as options that are legal can be employed, I don't see any reason why we cannot meet with these guys. But they are human beings like us. Saying that one approach cannot be, taken to bring this matter to an end, I think we can exploit other opportunities so that we'll bring this matter to an end. And it's something that is doable.
And there's also the morality of your approach. And I read your interview as published. You say that there are people living amongst us, in reference to the bandits. People are thinking that they are monsters. They are not. We can sit with them, discuss, and bring this menace to an end. But we're talking about people who are responsible for kidnapping and killings of, citizens in neighborhoods in Kaduna State. And you say that they are not monsters.
What I'm saying is that they are human beings like us. That's what I mean. And once you are a leader, you are a leader for all. And there is no reason why you cannot, to any extent, to bring this killing to an end. That is the position. That is my position. And I feel doing so and reaching out to those that matters is not anything bad in bringing this killing to an end. It is unfortunate that this thing is happening and is persisting. And as a government, the essence of any government is to protect the life and property of its citizens. That is a provision in the Constitution. If you cannot do that, you don't have any business in government.
Well, we'll have to leave that, the jury's out on the success of negotiation with bandits historically in Nigeria. Let's talk about the election, Mr. Ashiru. In the presidential poll, the PDP led in Kaduna State. That must surely place you in a comfortable position in the coming polls.
By the special grace of God, we are working tirelessly to make sure that these people are gone. Come 18th of March, by the special grace of God, we will send them packing. People are not really happy with what is happening, and there is nothing that they have on ground to show to make sure that they get the confidence of our people. Our people are agitated, frustrated, and are in abject poverty. And there are so many reasons that I can advance that this government has caused this menace in terms of retirement of workers, the traditional institutions, and the issue of unemployment that is still on the increase. People have been displaced in their various places of work and businesses, and nothing has been provided to support these people. The essence of any government is to make sure that its people and their businesses are safe. When this government came, they went demolishing small and medium businesses, building shopping malls that these people cannot afford. So several people have been sent out, and there is nothing anybody can do rather than to make sure that these people are sent packing, because they are not ready to save the situation. As far as I'm concerned, small and medium businesses are the backbone of any economy in any country. And the situation we find ourselves in Kaduna State, it is unfortunate, and it should not be allowed to continue.
Well, Mr. Ashiru, it may not be as simple as you painted. You know, many refer to the achievement of the current administration in terms of infrastructure renewal in Kaduna State. Now, besides that, you know, the PDP traditionally got its votes from southern Kaduna in the past. But now there's a new threat to the PDP in the state, which is the Labour Party, and we saw that in the presidential election. How are you set to surmount these obstacles as you go to the polls in a fortnight?
Well, what really happened in southern part of the Kaduna State is an issue that has to do with religion. People were sent, you know, with wrong notion that Labour is a Christian party. And majority of the populace went with that notion. That was why we had this problem of losing so many of our supporters in the southern part of the state. But we have gone around trying to educate our people that that is not so. And I want to assure you, with what we have done so far, there will definitely be a dramatic change as far as the voting Labour Party is concerned in the southern part of the state.
Just before I yield to my colleague, Mr. Ashiru, concerns about your emergence in the PDP governorship primaries. There were reports to the effect that you know, you allegedly colluded with the party chairman to get the ticket for yourself. Are those reports true, and how have you been able to manage, you know, the grievances of those who frown at your emergence as the PDP governorship candidate in Kaduna State?
It's not unexpected from losers to be showing accusing fingers to the leadership. But what I want to assure you is that there was primaries that I emerged, and all the contestants were there. After my declaration, they embraced me and promised to work with me closely. It was only one of the candidates that was not forthcoming, but after due consultation, reaching out to those that matters, we are brought under one roof. We had discussions and agreement that we don't have any choice than to come together and make sure that we work for the party. And alhamdulillah, as I'm talking to you, I was with him yesterday up to 2 a.m., reaching out to our supporters across the state to make sure that come 18th of March, PDP emerged as the winner. As far as I'm concerned, things are back to normal, and we are working together to make sure that we succeed.
Well, the political atmosphere in Kaduna is one thing, really, because it's been identified as a major battleground in the country, and we see the the intrigues and all of that in the build-up to now next week's election. And I'd like you to speak to this report that 2 chieftains of your party were arrested by security agencies over some of their utterances, which were thought to be quite strong and capable of inciting violence. What do you know about that, and what's their situation?
Thank you very much, my brother. That is the burning issue now. They have resorted, the government in power have resorted to arresting our supporters across the state. I know they have taken about 20 to their custody, unfortunately. This will not scare us. We don't have we don't have any problem with what they are doing, except that they just want to intimidate us and coerce our supporters so that they will be scared during the elections. Well, I have reported the matter to the Commissioner of Police and the agency that is making the arrest, that is the DSS. I sent a protest letter, and I'm going to pursue it to the national level. It is unfortunate that that is the kind of politics they play here, but it will not be deterred. We will continue with what we are doing. What is of importance is to make sure that we send them packing. And by the special grace of God, with what we are doing, we will, I will take up the matter. I'll be going to Abuja today to make sure that I report the matter to the highest authorities. That is not politics, and that is not what it should be. There has to be a playable ground for all of us to participate freely without molestation. And what is happening is that our supporters have been arrested in the last 1 week, and they are still doing it. And I will not take it kindly, but we have been going around to pacify our supporters not to go, against the laws of the land. And they are adhering to it. But we will not take it easy. We will not take it kindly.
Right.
We'll report to the appropriate quarters in Abuja.
Right. Can you confirm that they were arrested, is it by the DSS or another security agency?
Yes, to be precise, the DSS.
All right. We understand that the DSS, comes from the national level, and when you talk about state politics, are you confident, or do you have it on good authority that this is linked to the government in power at the state level, or this is just as a result of, some of the utterances which they were said to have made?
The arrest is political, and it's from the government of the day in my state.
All right. Let's talk about your political antecedent. By the way, we cannot independently verify those claims, but those are the words of the PDP governorship candidate in Kaduna State, Mr. Isa Ashiru. But let's talk about your political trajectory, quite a rich one from early 90s, how you have progressed up until 1999, and from a PDP to the APC, now back in the PDP House of Representatives. And I'd like to know, for a lot of people who ask the question, pedigree, what have you achieved? What have you done well that we can now say, well, if we elect you as governor, based on what you have done in the past, you can do this quite well. How are you prepared for this office based on what you have done in the past? What are those major achievements that you're selling to the people of Kaduna State?
Well, thank you very much, my brother. I want to thank you most sincerely for bringing up this matter. People have been asking, what is it that Ashiru has done? Well, when you go to my constituency, I'm sure what I have done there in Kaduna constituency is still there for people to verify. And I was opportune to be the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Appropriation. And what I have done in the country is something that will live till the end of my life. I was part of those that supported the renovation of the National Psychiatric Hospital in Kaduna. And the other project that I know I have supported is the National Trauma Center that is in the National Hospital. Like I said, you can reach out to the then medical director, Professor B.B. Shehu, who happens to be the Vice Chancellor of Federal University of Technology in Birnin Kebbi. Other projects that I know I supported are there for people to see. And I have records to show that. Back to my state constituency, when you go, I know I have achieved a lot. That's why I've had the opportunity of being re-elected to the National Assembly twice. So for anybody that will want that, I have records to present for anybody to verify. And if they are verifiable, there are things that still stand in the state, not even my federal constituency, that I can attest to that. I have colleagues that were together in the National Assembly. They know what I did in their various constituencies.
Right.
Having the opportunity of being in the appropriation committee. And it's something that I can beat my chest to say that I have assisted my people in terms of projects that are still standing.
I think one of the standouts, as you mentioned, is the psychiatric hospital there. And I mean, aside that, perhaps you have a compendium of some of those achievements, which will be vital right now. I wonder how this postponement, by the way, affects the build-up to the elections, because some would say you are riding on that wave of the victory, or at least the state victory and then the senatorial victory and all in Kaduna State. But let's speak to specifics now to maybe know what to expect from you. In terms of the IGR of Kaduna State, which is always a big question, this government has boasted that it's been able to improve the IGR through various means, you know, the technology itself, on collection, you know, widening the tax net and all of that. What is your target for IGR in Kaduna State? And I will just add to that the question of borrowing, which Chamberlain raised earlier on with the APC's candidate. What is your goal really in achieving perhaps a higher IGR? What is the target, and really how do you plan to achieve that if it's not borrowing?
Thank you very much. Let me start with the issue of the borrowing you spoke. The state is the highest indebted state in this country, as I'm talking to you now. When they say Lagos is the first, I still feel Lagos has what it takes. The loan that the candidate of ABC was talking is the 361 billion borrowed. The 78% of the 361 billion that was borrowed was utilized for training and consultancy, 78%, and the remaining 22% was dedicated to semi capital projects. Sir, how on earth can a leader take the sum of 361 billion naira as loan to training?
It's playing a fast one on us. The audio is really distorted. I mean, it's hard to really make out what you're saying, except a few things. But clearly, the coming days will be interesting. If I could just add as we wind down, if the connection is good, I wonder why you're asking the Labour Party candidate to step down. Is there any reason for that, if you could do that in 30 seconds?
I have never said that. I have never said any candidate should step down for me. But there are candidates that have agreed to go with me so that we'll rescue our state. But I have never asked the Labour Party candidate to step down for me.
How about
never.
People in your party, people affiliated to you? Because that messaging has been coming across severally.
Come again?
I said people in your party, people affiliated to you. How about them? That messaging has been coming across severally.
Well, there are party leaders that have been reaching out to members of the Labour Party to make sure that they have everything, and making sure that we work together to face the 2023 election.
All right.
I know that has been that reach out. But I've never, even for a second.
All right. It's important to clear that out. But
Labour Party candidates should withdraw for me.
all right. It's important to clear that out. But I'd like to thank you so much, Honorable Issa Ashiru, the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in now next week's governorship election in Kaduna State. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you so much, my brother, for giving me this opportunity. All
right. Let's head over to Abuja now. We still have one more leg of this conversation, still on Kaduna State. Guys.
Well, actually, we'll go to break, but we will return in just a moment. Please join us again.
Well, just before we get to that last leg on Kaduna State, let's focus on Lagos, right? Nigeria's commercial capital for a bit. And as you can see, we have right here with us in our Lagos studio, the
Everybody seems
to upgrade you right now.
A lot of people have been doing this.
I need to get the presidential election out of my head.
Let me get.
We have the governorship candidate of the Labour Party, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, right here with us.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
It was your birthday yesterday.
Yes, it was.
So happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
The big 40, right?
Big 40, yes.
But, I mean, it's politics. I imagine that overshadowed all of the birthday celebrations.
Yes,
with the postponement we saw very late yesterday, you were riding on that momentum that, you know, the goodwill, the Labour Party goodwill. And a lot of people thought, well, this marathon will come to an end this weekend. I wonder, with the postponement, has that dampened that momentum? Because it stretched it again, another lap to go.
No, we're very excited because every day that you give us, we get stronger. Every day that you give us, we can engage more with the people, reach out to the people, get into their hearts and minds. So it's a very, we're happy about it, you know. And most importantly, it's not about rushing an election, it's about getting it right. Right, and that's why we got the injunction to ensure that INEC actually follows its processes. And then it's also important that presidential candidates, right, also go through the process of getting all their data from BVAs, right? So it's not just about doing something and rushing to do it. There are lots of things that must be done right if we want to set this country on the right course.
So in spite of the fact that your presidential candidate is asking to have time to go through the BVAs, inspect them, get the data. And then the court says, well, we need to ensure that this is done, especially because INEC has given some assurances that the data will be backed up. You're okay with that?
I am, because I feel that the president of Nigeria holds a significant role, and we must get that right. It's unfortunate if our presidential candidate is somebody that was not elected by the will of the people, and is not someone that's a reflection of the will of the people and their aspirations for a better Nigeria. And anything that can ensure that that is legitimized and legitimate is something that I'm open to.
Because for a lot of people in your party, it was like a bittersweet judgment, having the elections postponed by 1 week, but the fact that INEC could actually go ahead to configure or reconfigure the BVAs, it was bittersweet. But it's interesting you see it as
because if they reconfigure it and data is lost, that, you know, we have to think on the long term, right? Everything is not just about short-term wins, it's also about the long-term win. I need for His Excellency Peter Obi to get all his information, all his data, so we can actually stand a very good chance in court.
And you trust INEC on this one?
After last Saturday, I cannot say I trust INEC. I am watching, right? I am observing. And because, I mean, we have results from our situation room that puts us in Lagos over 900,000 votes. But then you see what they declared is very different. So I cannot, as a right-thinking human being, say I trust INEC. They are going to have to win our trust. But we are prepared for whatever worst-case scenario, and we're hopeful for the best.
Because the irony is the fact that your candidates that won at the Senate, House of Reps, I mean, went to collect their certificate of return, which came out of an election which your party doubts the process and even the results.
No, because it's a very simple thing. The INEC chairman, by himself, came out and promised us that there will be electronic transmission of voting, right? And that was supposed to take us out of this 2015, 2019 type of elections where there's so much rigging and manipulations at the ward coalition and the local government coalition. Now, it does not mean that a rightful person cannot emerge through that other process. You just have to be a lot more aggressive, a lot more close marking to ensure that nobody can get away with anything, right? And people will do that and emerge, right? But there are also a lot of situations where, I mean, in Surulere too in Lagos State, all of a sudden, after the Labour Party candidate had emerged the winner, they said he was just not supposed to be on the ballot box, right? On the ballot paper. Or you have a situation, you know, Ojo, they later called it in favor of Labour Party. In a number of local governments, in Ikeja, in a number of local governments, there was all that delay and lots of problems, right? But with the electronic transmission of voting, because I was part of the Osun election at the time the Ondo election, right, back then. And we literally, as a party, our situation was collating results from the INEC portal. And I truly believe that our process had been deepened and had become transparent to a large extent. And when you also look at the Osun elections when Omishore went to the collation center, it was almost empty, and literally they chased him out. It showed that the value, the truth, the integrity of it had already gone online.
Interesting. I'm interested in your candidacy and, you know, the many controversies arising. First, the primordial sentiments that your candidacy has, you know, thrown up. They are primordial, but then they are the people's feelings. Some of the concerns are that you don't speak the language. You are from Lagos truly, but your mother is Igbo. How do you hope to, should you win, unify Lagos, you know, being a cosmopolitan state of many people coming together from, you know, different parts of the country?
Yes, first of all, I am the epitome of a cosmopolitan Lagos. I represent it, I embody it. I see what brings us together as opposed to what takes us apart. And let us know, see, Lagos State has been in harmony for a very long time. What happens is politicians come and try to divide us. And I always say to people, let us be wary of a politician or politicians that only remember that they are Yoruba when it's time for politics. When Fulani herdsmen were making incursions into Oyo and into different parts of the southwest, and people like Sunday Igboho stood up, people like Rotimi Akeredolu stood up. A lot of politicians in Lagos were quiet. They played politics with it. They were quiet. When it was time for Amotekun, they were quiet. So many interests of the Yoruba people, they were quiet because they wanted an alliance with the North, right? So they put their political interests above the interests of their people. And then all of a sudden, it's time for politics, and they remind you that this person does not speak Yoruba, this person. With the Yoruba that they've been speaking, when they fired at young people at Lekki Toll Gate, did they separate the Yoruba, Igbo, or Hausa? All the Agberos on the streets that are wasting their lives, young men that are getting on drugs and have been multiplying for years, do they go and meet the ones that are Yoruba and tell them, come, we'll give you rehabilitation, or we're going to get you off the streets, we're going to ensure that you're a more productive member of society?
Are you implying that the politicians fired at the protesters
I will say from what the army has said, Governor Sanwo-Olu invited them in and gave the order.
But he's been clearing that time and again. I imagine you caught the interview.
I mean, and then what the army said during the hearing completely goes against what he said. And you're a CSO of a state, right? If you did not give an order and somebody just comes and is shooting like a cowboy, you should be on ground. As a leader of the state, you should say, you cannot shoot at my people. If you have to shoot at me to get through me to get to the people.
So you believe, even though time and again the governor has said, well, I didn't give the order in different ways, you believe that he still gave the order, and understanding how governance works, how the chain of command, not even with the police, with the military, you still believe?
I don't believe that a military setup will come and start shooting at people without carrying the governor along. It's not possible.
So
except it was a coup.
Order.
I believe that. And I also believe that he saw the bodies. I believe that he was at Reddington Hospital. I believe that he saw the bodies. And there's a lot of evidence on this. So all this gaslighting that they've been doing, we're just watching them. Because it's the same thing as they're telling us that the election was won by 10,000. when we know that we lost, they took out almost 50,000 votes in Alimosho and 20,000 votes in Ikeja. There's a lot of gaslighting, politics, and tokenism that is a hallmark of the APC government.
So, but without losing sight, of the thrust of the conversation.
Controversies. You are talking about controversies.
You've contested under the COA party before.
Yes.
You've contested under the PDP before.
Yes.
And, your parentage didn't come up. Why do you think it's coming up now?
Well, because they are threatened. And the governor had several opportunities to come and give account of his stewardship of Lagos State in several debates, and he dodged all of them. And now he's seeing that the people are no longer just, I've always said my work in the last 5, 6 years is to bring an entirely new voter demographic to the ballot. And this new demographic is interested in accountability. They're interested in you expressing your vision and giving account of what you've been giving, what you've done with the resources available to you. And they've seen that. Now, unfortunately, the whole argument is without substance, so they have to resort to primordial sentiment. And this is standard. When you don't really have much to offer, you try to divide people based on tribes and primordial leanings.
But if you plan to unify, Lagos, do you feel conflicted, or do you feel that you'll be unable to, since you don't speak the language?
Not at all. Lagos is a cosmopolitan state. And the fact of the matter is not as though I don't understand Yoruba or I cannot speak it. My intonations are funny. People laugh at me, and I don't think in Yoruba, right? I went to school at MIT, I went to school in Nottingham, I went to school in France, I went to school. So there's been a lot of movements in my life, right? But that does not change the fact that, listen, everybody at the end of the day wants good governance. The market woman in Lagos Island does not want to be paying all this over-taxation to Agberos that cannot be accounted for. The Igbo woman in Ladipo, similar problems. People want good governance. It's not about the language you're speaking.
Interesting. Maybe you'll do some language tests in the future, or do a
maybe that will be.
I see you're about to do videos time and again. But you talked about market women, the Agbero question. I'll come to that in a moment. But the market talk reminded me of the fire.
Yes.
The market Oludiapapa yesterday, and you were there. Just right after that market fire, and it was quite emotional for a lot of people.
It was emotional for me as well.
It was for you as well, seeing that goods were burned, even a life was lost in the process. And one of the other things that came up, and I think it ties back to the atmosphere pre-election, pre-governorship election, is a tweet that you put out that then was deleted. And I wonder if you would explain to Nigerians what motivated that tweet. Was it anger? Was it maybe an aide who just tweeted without?
No, it was me. It was me. I'm not the person that will pass the ball.
Just so a lot of people understand that tweet. He says the APC government is so backward. I keep warning, put in mind what will happen when the tables turn. This evil, from the murder of Funshaw Williams to NSAS to state-backed terrorism of residents of Lagos, must stop.
Yes.
For a lot of people, that was maybe, and perhaps that's why you deleted it. But give us a background information.
So for me, this government has run unaccountably for over 2 decades, right? They've empowered Agberos and touts and thugs that carry out so much violence, and they've not been brought to book. I mean, look at during the NSAS, right in front of Alausa Secretariat, young men came out with machetes from BRT buses, and these people have not been brought to book, right? And I'm saying, power is not always going to be in your hands. So treat people how you want to be treated, because you are going to have to account for all of these things. You cannot just be carry on state-backed violence like that and not think it will eventually be investigated or you will not be brought to book. So I'm saying, whatever you are doing, just because you have power in your hands does not mean that it will always be in your hands. And at a point, you are going to have to come and account for it, right? Through legal means, right? And for me, and I've been putting this warning out consistently for about 6 months. It should be in your utterances. It should be in, the first time I said this was, one of our supporters was putting a poster of Peter Obi in Iba in Ojo, and they macheted his forehead. And I said, you cannot continue like this, right? We are going to have to investigate at a point. Who are the people that did these things, right? And those people are going to have to face the full wrath of the law.
Do you know who macheted him?
Yes, he can identify them.
Do you know who they are? Are they affiliated? I mean,
yes, they're affiliated to the APC.
And you can confirm?
Yes, and same thing happened with the Flag Boys around Oshodi Interchange, that whole new place. They were nearly burnt alive. We reported to the police. Nothing yet has been done, right? So I'm saying, because you have power now, and the states apparatus is working in your interest, always consider that one day the tables will turn and you are going to have to account for all of these things.
So why did you delete the tweet then, if it came from where you think it came from?
The honest truth is, I work with a team, right? And my team felt that, you know, you must start to talk like a governor. And talking like a governor also implies that your emotions and the injustice that you feel must also be communicated in a way that is very neutral, right? And I listened, right? So that's me being honest. That's the truth.
Do you regret putting out the tweet?
No, I think that I'm human. And I saw that, and it's building up on a lot of things. Even forget this tribal thing. Look at all the rumors about markets that are burnt, later reclaimed by the state, that a modern building is built, and the people that have been there cannot afford to rent stalls in that market. It also talks about evictions. It talks about forceful evictions of people. It talks about a development of Lagos that is not inclusive and is always marginalizing the poor. And the vulnerable in society are always the ones that are suffering. It's almost like there's a law, but the law is for only the poor. Right? And the rich are just above the law. And this it pervades every sector of our society. And it's a very painful thing to see.
It's a good thing, you know, you visit the market, commiserate with the people over their loss, you know, but it's part of the show, right? You know, for people to see you as compassionate, particularly because you want to
I don't
become
think
governor.
It's a part of the show thing. You see, I believe that the greatest qualities we can have, right, in a leader is empathy, cerebral capacity, and the strength and courage to do what is right. Right, and Alhaji Lateef Jakonde is an epitome of that. Obafemi Awolowo is the epitome of that as well. But you see, when people come out to say they stand by you and they vote for you, and people come to attack them or hurt them or try to marginalize them because they took that step, you have to stand up for them as well. They stood up for you, you have to stand up for them, right? And this cuts across, right? So it's not a show. It's something that came from genuine concern and emotion. And I got there, I saw a grown man crying. His wife was crying. I literally had to walk back so I don't start crying on TV and then go back in. And you see people should be allowed to vote who they want. And if you feel bad about that, do the work, make them happy. So you don't have to suppress or intimidate people to get their support.
I'm just wondering whether, you know, it's something that should be a pattern since you are a politician and this is not the first time you're contesting. So it shouldn't just be strategic, you know, coming at a time that is close to the polls.
My journey in politics started from activism, which was campaigning against the introduction of genetic modified foods in Nigeria. That was not a popular struggle. It was highly intellectual, but it's something that connected us all because all of us eat. I led the 2,000-man march on the Senate. This was not for popularity or patterns or anything. Empathy and compassion for things that I believe I can change, I can be part of, has been consistent for years, right? So this is not a show. It's a situation where this happened and I had to react, right? There are many things that happened. I'll give you an example. The lady that was stabbed in the face, right? The Labour Party lady, right? I called her, I talked to her for a long time, you know, showed support and all that, but I did not go to go and visit her and take pictures or a photo. No, I didn't do that, right? So I'm not hopping on no. This was important and I had to act decisively.
Just before we toss it to Abuja, in response to the controversies, you know, there's a missive going around that you reportedly penned, and I'd just like you to respond to it or deny that that you authored it. Paragraph 6 says, I refuse their bribe offer of 20 billion naira to sell out my ticket and step down from the governorship race for Sanwo-Olu. Did you author that?
I didn't author that.
You didn't author that?
I didn't author that.
Okay. So
let's settle it.
It's just like, I'm sure Sanwo-Olu did not author that I'm an IPOB leader, my father never married my mother, and, you know, there's so many things that
you never offered anything to step down?
No, I've not been.
Well, let's head over to Abuja studio. Chamberlain has a few questions, and perhaps Mark, wait for you.
All right, well, let me ask you, a lot is involved with these elections in Lagos. Even families are conflicted as to how they need to approach all of this. Would you say that you are doing your level best to ensure that both your supporters and all else ensure that they conduct themselves decently, both before, during, and after the elections?
My focus now is on security and ensuring that my people come out to vote. People come out to vote. Actually, not my people. Everybody comes out to vote, and they are not intimidated or harassed, because any form of intimidation or harassment will be met with resistance. It's just that simple. In relation to people behavior and all of that, we're a party that, you know, wants to build. We are not destroyers. We like value. We want people that create value and people that are supportive of building a community that is also supportive of everybody and is inclusive. So I'm not quite sure how your question might be leaning, but our focus is on securing the people that are coming out on election day to vote for Labour Party and to vote in general, to be honest, and to ensure that we have an experience that is positive for people that are going to come out to vote.
And that's certainly a base minimum that, you know, all the parties should be able to agree on, the fact that, you know, people should be free to express themselves, and at the end of the day, that their votes count. But let me ask you, I want to go back to this question of the tribal issues that have come up in Lagos State. And some people will argue that at the heart of it is the fear that cultures could be eroded. I mean, you know, you do know that there's some indigenous communities in Lagos. How do you intend to manage the fact that Lagos is a cosmopolitan city, largely, but that there are still indigenous minorities? How do you intend to manage that in such a way that their cultures are also preserved?
So it's about paying real attention to it. You know, people are talking about this, but then the real damage is being done by the government stealing indigenous families' lands. All from Ikorodu all the way to Ojo, to Ekpe. Indigenous families have been stripped of their lands and appropriated without any credit going to the state coffers, right? These things must be addressed, and we must address it in a fair way, as transparent, and these things must be returned, right, to indigenous families. Also about celebrating our culture, the rich culture of the Egu in Badagry, the rich culture of the Aworis in Ojo and parts of Lagos Island and Alimosho, and the culture of Lagos Island. And this is by celebrating with art, with culture, curating it and letting it be something that people are drawn to come and visit, you know, actually investing properly in these things as opposed to just lip service when it's convenient in political season. And the honest truth is Lagos State has been a home, has been cosmopolitan even before the Oba of Benin sent our current ruling class to Lagos State. It has been a trading post. The indigenes of Lagos are accepting, welcoming, warm people. We don't discriminate, you know, and that's the culture that needs to be restored in Lagos, because most of these people that are pushing all of these things, they're not even from Lagos.
Let's wind down in less than a minute. A lot of people see you as a rookie politician, a young person, and they think that the seat of Lagos, or the governorship seat in Lagos, is not one to gamble with, to play hit or miss with in less than 30 seconds, if you could. What do you say to those people? Because I remember 2017, you were running for chairman local government of Ikeja under Kowa, moved to the PDP, now Labour Party. So what do you tell those people who say you're a rookie and this seat? So there you go. Very interesting conversation, really, with some of the governorship candidates across states. Don't worry, we'll bring you the Kaduna bit in the coming hours or days as you have it. Don't forget, we have an extra 1 week to probe these issues. But from here in Lagos, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
Yes, I've thoroughly had a good time this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. We'll return tomorrow with more. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Actually, Mr. Jonathan Asake, he was scheduled to be with us today. The candidate of the Labour Party for Kaduna said he will now join us tomorrow morning. So make it a date with him. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Have a good day.
Thank you for watching. I'm Maokpe Ogun Yusuf. See you next time.